Because if you're really involved in that relationship and giving it your all, there's no way that you can't love that child like you're loving the mother of that child. Because of the fact, if you're not, you're doing a disjustice to the whole relationship.
Welcome to the Let's Rock Podcast. I am your host, Philosophikal.
And I'm your co-host, Ecko. What's good? What's poppin'?
What's up, y'all? As y'all can see, we got our co-host here in person, Ecko.
Live in effect for the first time.
And as you can see, also, we have a very special guest here, man, Mr. Duane Bumpass, man. Author, husband, entrepreneur, father, and the author of this great book, How I Raised 4 Successful Black Sons, man. Amazing book, man. Thank you. What's up, man?
Thank you. I appreciate y'all for having me out and taking y'all time and promoting, this. It needs to be promoted, the positive black image of
definitely.
a young black man and the fathers.
Yeah,
It really needs to be done.
Definitely. I feel like this is not talked about enough, man. And I'm glad, you took the time out of your schedule to be here with us, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
sir.
I mean...
So let's talk about it, man. How I raised 4 successful black sons, man. Let's kind of start, man. How did this kind of start off for you?
It started off probably about 4 or 5 years ago. A bunch of my customers, when I first started the business back in 2011 or so, they saw my boys grow up. And once they saw the older boys go off and go to college, and one went to the Marines, then they saw the twins come behind them and work with me, and now they went to college. They was like, you really did a good job with your kids. They like, you need to sit down and write a book. We need this information and this blueprint for our kids and the rest of the other black generational males and things of that nature that's out in this world today. They need that blueprint. So I finally, I pushed it aside, and I finally got it done. And here we are now. We got the actual blueprint.
Man, an amazing accomplishment. You spoke about the blueprint, man, as far as, let's just keep it a buck, man, being black.
Yeah.
Yes,
definitely. Black families, you don't see a lot of it. You see a lot of our black men out here, either
slacking or struggling
or in the streets, man.
Yes.
And, a lot of that has been on parenting.
Yes.
How our boys are raised, and the fact that, the inspiration to write this book, based off of those parenting of your boys, and then the encouragement and just the support of the circle to really get this done, man.
Yes, sir.
Just speaks great volumes. You don't see that every day. It's definitely not talked about.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it a little bit, man. Let's talk about a little bit of, you spoke kind of the first chapter on blended families.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think there's such like a stigma on blended families, right?
I mean, beyond blended families, there's a stigma on dating people with children.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
Like
yes.
I've
they
caught
shun away from it.
Yeah, I've caught myself several times just being like, I don't think I can date a woman with a child.
Yeah.
And it's, so I mean, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that with us, it kind of brought us closer because of the situation with my wife. When we first met, her son was 3. She was a single parent. My son was 3. I was a single parent. And they both were males. So we kind of had a lot to relate about.
Okay.
And as far as the raising techniques of them, the ingredients was missing from my son Jaquan, that father figure, that positive father figure, I should say.
Okay.
His father was here and there, kind of, and wasn't very supportive of helping my wife when we met. So I stepped in, and I knew when we first hit off with the relationship that if I was going to accept her, then I had to accept him as well. That was the start of it. You definitely have to go in the mind frame of you accepting both, and she also as well had to accept my son.
So
Okay.
here's my question then. Do you think part of the stigma of dating people with children is not wanting to be like having to deal with the child, or do you think it's
Yep.
so? Like for me personally, I'll speak for my side. Like me, I know one of the reasons that I don't want to date anybody with a child, or at least right now, is I don't want to end up in a situation where I get my heart broken twice.
Exactly.
So the idea being like, if you're, like you said, if you're dating someone with a child, then you're dating them, but you're also
Yep.
you're
Kinda
also
dating that
building
child
a
as
relationship
well,
with a
'cause
child.
yep.
Yeah. So it's like, all right, let's say it doesn't work out. Okay, now that relationship with the woman is done, but also this child who
After
you've built love for and
You
all
built
this
that love
stuff,
for that
you
child.
you gotta step back.
Yes.
And that's
It's hard.
yeah,
It's hard. It's hard. It's
that's
definitely
rough.
because if you're really involved in that relationship and giving it your all, there's no way that you can't love that child like you're loving the mother of that child. Because of the fact, if you're not, you're doing a disjustice to the whole relationship.
Correct.
Because later on down the line, it's not going to progress between you and that child. Because you showed that child earlier in life that
You don't
it really
care.
wasn't true love. You kind of shunned them aside, so to speak.
So I'll kind of speak, on it from kind of having some experience with it, but also kind of taking notes also, right?
Yes.
So let's speak on a perspective of one side of maybe a man not having a child, but also dating someone that does have a child.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are certain, I think, protections. I think we as people on a mother or father put,
Which is
into
normal.
it.
Yep.
Correct.
Mhm.
To say, in your situation to where, your wife right now at that time could have said, I don't know who you are.
Exactly.
I'm not going to let a man just come in and tell me how to raise my son.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think that's what a lot goes on.
Yeah,
definitely
exactly.
does. Definitely does.
So kind of talk about that, because I feel like sometimes that can be the
detrimental.
Detrimental.
Very detrimental. Yes.
and that can cause a rift in love.
Yes.
Right. So kind of talk about that. Did you guys have that?
we did experience that at the beginning.
Okay.
Because
I think that's important. People need to hear that.
when you blended the two households together, because of course it took a while for us to start, migrating different rules and regulations as far as the household. Because at first she still lived where she lived and I lived where I lived, and the two sons kind of not saying they were confused, but they knew when they were here they could do this, and when they were here they can do that. So once we got real serious, we had to bring it all together, and it was some disagreements. Don't get me wrong.
So was that a conversation you guys had before with each
Yes,
other?
yes.
Okay.
When we saw the conflict and the different
Kind of
things,
talk about that.
When we saw that happening, it's like we wouldn't do it in front of the children, but we'll have our conversation behind closed doors. And I'm like, hey, you notice that when I tell him to do something, he doesn't do it or whatever, unless you jump in and say something. We eventually gonna have to fix that. And then she will have different things she would come to me on. She'd be like, hey, I told him to stop doing that, and he's still doing it. So we had to come to a midpoint where, hey, you discipline him just like you discipline your son, as far as you have that authority. If you do not give that other partner that authority to discipline the child, it's not going to work, because that child will never respect you. Never.
Because they see that the
That
parent,
they can, yes.
the parent doesn't respect.
There you go. There you go.
So I have a follow-up question then. So do you think that a lot of men are so hesitant to date a woman with a child because they don't feel like they will get that respect, or do you think it's because they don't think they have earned that respect?
That possibly could have a lot to do with it, but I notice when I watch different relationships, some men, they don't want that responsibility because they feel as though that's not their child when they coming into the relationship. So with them coming into the relationship with that mind frame, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's definitely not going to work because they don't want to accept the responsibility of the child. They just want the dating with the mother.
So what do you say, and I'm glad you brought that up, what do you say to situations in dating where a man, I don't think men do it so much, but I do think women lean in with automatically, I have a child.
Yes.
It comes with the package.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly.
And I feel like sometimes, and you said this in your book, and I like this to where you said that you kind of felt a little bit of pressure to feel like when a woman has a child, you've got to put pressure in your mindset to say, just as much as I'm taking care of her child, I got to take care of her.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So kind of talk about that, right? To where women, and also maybe some men, lead in with, I come with a package.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So kind of speak on that. What are your thoughts
Now,
on that?
definitely with my wife, she was very secure with herself,
Okay.
and she was very independent.
Okay.
She could handle everything herself and things of that nature.
Okay.
But when I came along, she wasn't used to a male figure there to assist her and help her. So it kind of took her a while to trust me, because everything, as far as, I don't know if it went through with like what was in her life previously, but she felt as though that I was going to desert her and break her heart, so to speak, and her son's heart. She didn't want to make a lot of changes at the beginning, as far as like when we decided to mesh the kids together and move together and things of that nature. It took her a while to trust in the relationship that it really was going to go that far, and what she saw wasn't a mirage, that it was really a true thing.
Okay, so we've also spoken on this podcast, it takes a lot of trust. You can also feel like sometimes people feel like if it's hard for a woman or a man to trust their partner,
Definitely.
that have children, because it feels like maybe they're gonna take that child away from them, mentally.
Yes.
Did you kind of go into that? Did you kind of feel that way?
It wasn't to the fact to where it got as bad where she felt I was going to take him away from her.
Okay.
But the firmness that the male aspect puts into the relationship, she kind of felt as though that I was kind of too harsh, because that he wasn't used to that. So she kind of sometimes wanted me to tone it down a bit and take it easy on him.
But you saw what he needed to be.
Exactly, and that's what that male figure does.
And
that missing ingredient, you have to put that missing ingredient in.
So here's my question though. What's it called? Like you are a successful, secure individual. So talk to us a little bit about having that in yourself first before you try and establish that for somebody else.
Definitely. You definitely want to have that in yourself instilled first, because in order to teach one, it's easier when you've went through it and when you're applying it, because you know what it takes to continue to make that work. When you haven't yet done it, and I feel as though sometimes this might be problems with the other relationships, with the males coming in that haven't had children, they really don't want to assist and learn on the fly, because they're not ready to accept that responsibility of the child aspect.
But they're willing to accept the responsibility of the woman.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's something that can't be forced on somebody, because of the fact, if you don't want to be a parent, you shouldn't be a parent. It's that simple, because being a parent, it takes a lot of sacrifice.
Correct. And I saw that where you stated that when you become a parent, you have to almost become sacrificial to your wants.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I guess the next question would be, as far as like, where like do you, I mean, to be honest, from what you're saying, you got to kind of be, man enough, direct within yourself, and kind of being you.
Yes.
It always goes like, can you ever be prepared? You know what I mean? To be a parent.
Now, I wasn't prepared.
Okay.
Now that you brought that up.
Yeah.
And Ecko touched on it too. When I had my first son, I was not prepared. I was
Okay.
18 when I had my first son. I
Okay.
was definitely not prepared.
Okay.
But what I learned on the fly with his mother, I was kind of more mature with the situation and accepted all of the responsibility.
Okay.
And I put it on myself that no matter what, you're going to be successful. If I got to work 2 jobs, if I got to work 3 jobs, everything that needs to be taken care of will be taken care of.
So do you feel like that affected you and the partner at that time?
Not really, cause she was on a different level. She just wanted to party and go to the club, get her nails done, pop bottles, things of that nature.
The reason why I asked that because it's usually the other way around.
Yes,
Yeah.
it definitely
Yeah.
is. It definitely is.
Yeah.
But the thing that helped me out though, the way I was raised in my household, I saw my father do it. So that's all I knew.
Okay.
We never had to want or need for nothing because he made sure he provided.
Okay.
And as well, my mother did also, but it comes down to, I just see it as that male's, it's his job to make sure that his family has everything that that they need.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's monetary, whether it's as far as taking the kids to the park, the little loving and nurturing. Some of that comes from the mother, but they need that from that male aspect too.
So do you feel like, okay, you speak on that, so do you feel like sometimes that nurturing part, it has to come from both parents, right?
Yes, it does.
So do you feel like what do you feel like, I want to speak on, break down kind of the man's role of nurturing.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot different from what you see from the females.
Yeah.
My nurturing with the kids was kind of, you wouldn't see it as nurturing if you were sitting back looking at it. You'd be like, oh, he's still being hard on him, but he's giving them a little bit of credit, so to speak. It takes, for example, if they came home with good grades or whatever, I'm like, good job, but you got to continue to do that. It's not just we're going to end it there. That's good you did it now, but we got another quarter and another quarter. We got to continue on with that.
Yeah.
So you give them some of that positive encouragement, but you don't want to make it that they feel as though they've succeeded. We got a long way to go.
It's only, so what's it called?
Positive reinforcement.
Well, positive reinforcement, but it's not just like you said, you've achieved one goal of many, as opposed to this is the ultimate goal and you're done.
There you go.
Yeah.
And from my wife's aspect, it was kind of a little different. Because she made it like a big thing, and it was kind of like more of a hurrah, hip hip hooray type thing. And but most females are like that. But you kind of, especially with raising males, you gotta help them realize that it's some things you're supposed to do, and it's some things you have to do. And it wasn't a choice for them not to not get good grades. That you had to do that.
So how were you balancing, trying to be, a father for not your child, but also give that same energy to your current child?
Exactly.
Your son at that time.
Exactly. Yeah. That was, it came natural to me because of the fact that I started loving him like early on. We were in a relationship probably 3 months in or whatever, and my wife my girlfriend at the time wanted to slowly walk me in, but I had to, convince her that I was ready to accept that responsibility. We'd go out and things of that nature, and she'd come over, and she wouldn't bring him or whatever because she felt as though it was going to be a burden. And I'm like, nah, how come he never comes over? Oh, well, he at my mother's house. I'm like, no, he needs to be a part of this. He's a part of this. And once we got everybody all involved, that's when we really start making progress as far as all the kids and me and my wife, because it wasn't a left out party.
Correct.
So to speak.
And I feel like at that young age, it also, him being visual.
Exactly.
Seeing that, I'm seeing this person.
Yep.
All the time, right?
Yes.
and it develops a certain level.
Oh
of
yeah,
trust.
and it cuts down the
getting,
confusion.
correct, cuts down the confusion, but he's getting to know you just as much as you're getting to know him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And his mother.
Yes,
So
exactly.
And his mother.
And that's where that respect aspect comes.
Okay.
When he sees you treating his mother like that,
safe.
he feels secure,
Yeah.
and he starts to respect you more.
Correct.
Because sometimes when you go into the relationship, and a kid, if they feel as though that you're not treating that other party with that same respect or making them feel safe, they kind of rebel against you.
Correct.
Because of the fact they feel kids aren't dumb.
No.
Kids, they pick up on stuff real quick.
Correct.
So you wanna start out on the right foot with that child, because I've seen in different relationships that they continue on with the relationship and push the child aside. And that's when you end up with problems later down the line. Because when you try to include that child back into the picture, once they 13 and 14, it's too late.
They've already made their decision
already
about
made
you.
their decision, and they don't want nothing to do with you.
Correct.
And
correct.
that's where the failure comes into play.
So I also wanted to ask a question as far as you mentioned a couple times now that you wanted to instill, I assume, some things you already began to instill in your son at a young
Definitely.
age, right? So you mentioned you wanted to instill that in her son,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And she felt you were going a little bit harsh.
Yes.
Maybe
Yes.
too much.
Yes.
Maybe crossed the line.
Uh-huh.
Did you feel that way?
I didn't at the time,
Okay.
but then when I had looked back on it, on the way she was explaining it,
Okay.
how he wasn't used to certain things. Like, we had different rules in the house, like after 9 o'clock is no drinking, turn the TV off, go to bed. You got school tomorrow. He kind of was used to just looking at TV all night and just falling asleep when he wants to. That's not what we gonna do it. So little things like that we had to start to compromise on. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted him to be involved with the whole household situation, so that everybody could grow
Together.
all at the same time together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So I guess, how did I don't know if you can speak for her or the situation, but how did you realize, or she understood when you finally felt trusted by her to say that, I trust you, you're not just a stepfather, you're
Exactly.
a father figure, you're a father to my son, I trust that, because it comes to a level of trust.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like, I know you're not. I know you're not gonna, cross the line, pick him up from school.
There you go. Yep.
So where did that kind of?
That kind of took place early on in the relationship.
Oh,
after
really?
like
Okay.
a year time.
Okay.
Because it is all about on showing instead of telling.
Okay.
Your actions are more powerful than what you can tell somebody.
Okay.
So when she would tell me it was a PTA meeting or something for him, I would do everything in my power to make sure that I could get there and support her and him.
Okay.
Because he didn't have that day. Everybody else had their fathers there and sit down and things of that nature. Once he see me do that, and my wife saw me doing that type of stuff, she kind of, I guess, in her mind, she saw it as, okay, he's serious. He's going to stick around. He cares about my son just as he cares about his son.
Because it's easy to say those things.
Definitely,
It's easy to talk
definitely,
about.
yeah.
It's easy. It's easy to talk about those things.
Definitely.
So I wanted to bring up something that I just thought about, and maybe some of our other listeners and fathers out there want to hear.
Yes.
How important is it as you as a father, and I think you spoke about this a little bit in your book, to tell your son that you're proud of them?
Yes. That encouragement is very important, especially coming from a male.
Okay.
The male figure is normally the one that just is the firm one. But it's just like now when you have male teachers and female teachers, that boy or that young man, when he gets that encouragement from his male teacher, it kind of means something different than it would if it was coming from a female.
Okay.
Because that reinforcement from that male, they're looking for that, because most of them don't have that and they're not used to it. So I wanted to show them early on they could be out there like cutting the grass with me, washing the car, anything like that. You want to let them know, hey, you working hard, you doing a good job. I'm like, you gonna make it. You gonna make it in life if you keep on working like that and doing things like that. That little type of stuff that they hear, it sticks with them.
Yeah.
And the kids now that they're older, they'll sit back and be like, yeah, you was right on that. Because it finally hits them now, but it didn't really hit them when they were younger.
And it also, I guess, as a father, also instills in them that after a while, when they see you out there doing it, you don't have to tell them to come and do it.
Exactly, because they know that's what's
that's part of the that's part of what it is. Because I like, even from personal experience, I don't know if it's the same for you, Phil, but like people on my job right now, they're just like, oh, your work ethic is crazy, and it's just like this is normal.
Yeah. That's
correct. This is the expectation. At least for me, this is the expectation.
That's the way you want it. Yeah, Ecko, that's definitely how you want it.
I think
you don't want them to think that they're doing something special. That this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're required to do. This is the proper work ethic.
Yeah.
And they don't see that if you don't.
I think for me, it's a little weird, man. For me, I think, just from my experience, my dad was, he did display it through action, but it was a little bit of, he would show me after he did it type of thing.
Gotcha.
Oh, this is how you do it.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? This is how you get to where you need to get to. But I also got that, work ethic from my grandmother. My grandmother kind of always had that, that work ethic mentality, and also my mom, to always work hard towards something, right?
Yep.
So when you mention those things, man, it's just so important as us as men, especially in the Black community, to instill these things, right? And I think it's important now to where, like you said, like if you're out there mowing the lawn, I think to have them out there, to like,
even if they can't do it yet, still to just visualize and see, you doing it. Yeah, I touched on that as well in the book.
Yeah, you did.
It's like when we grew up, it's like our parents told us to do something, and then there's no rhyme or reason why.
Nah,
but you better go do it.
Yeah, you do it. Yeah.
And that's where I came from.
Yes, like that's where I came from as well.
That's where we all came from.
Don't ask no questions.
Exactly.
But you better go do what I told you to do.
It's like, why? Because I said so. That's why.
Like, I feel like you don't learn that lesson.
No, you can't. You can't.
Until later.
Yeah.
Way later.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But I feel like the technique you took was like, okay, I'm not going to yell or say, you need to go do this. We're going to do it together.
Yeah.
Then you're going to see why we have to do it. Hey, if we don't go out here and cut this grass every 2 weeks, then it's going to be too high.
Yeah.
So it's just sometimes they would come to me, I'm tired, and they'd be like, are we cutting the grass this week? Wow. It's like that they already had instilled that in them. And I gave them responsibilities early. I talked about that in the book as well.
Yeah.
As far as where, if it was trash day, when I came home from work, that trash better be out.
Yeah.
You know it's trash day. Yeah. So it's no excuse. And your mother better not have to take that trash out.
Yeah.
It's your job to take that trash out.
Yeah.
So you wanted to give the young man, that type of responsibility early.
Yeah.
That way they'll know when they're in their own relationships, and if something, God forbid, happens to me, they should take care of their mother just like I've taught them it's supposed to be done.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I wanted to touch on, we kind of maybe touched on it a little bit. When they were I won't even say infants, but maybe like 3, 4, 5.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. You had a great chapter in there as far as teaching babies as men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very young.
Yes.
Very young. Let's talk about that a little bit, kind of, because I know sometimes I think in today's world, you spoke in there as far as like a couple things. We're waiting too late to teach our kids
to be men. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. That's one, and two. There's such a stigma on like you spoke in your book, like you gave your son a bank account at the age of 5.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And he basically had a budget. It's like, this is your money.
Yeah.
You pay for what you want
Yes.
But I think in today's world,
a lot of that's missing.
Not only missing, it's viewed as extreme.
Yeah.
You know, he's too young for that.
Nah.
She's too young for that.
I hear that all the time.
Right?
I hear that all the time.
And I view that as, you know, maybe they're saying that because, you know, that's not what was instilled in them.
Correct. Right? And that's where it comes from.
Yeah, and I think people aren't using that information as, oh, maybe I should try that.
Yeah.
But they're basing it on, no, you can't do that. You know? Why are you doing that? That's
haven't seen it before.
Yeah. Yes. Borderline child endangerment.
Yes.
I wouldn't even say that, because like I know for our family, I can't remember exactly when it happened, but my folks were literally like, yeah, this is your bank account.
Yeah.
We, like, they might put money in it every now and again, but it's like, no, this is your money.
Yes.
If you spend it when there's nothing in there, there ain't, there's no more money. Actually, it started in elementary school, because I don't know if you dealt with it too, but when we were young, it's like you had a lunch card.
Exactly.
They would give you a lunch card, and if there was no money on that lunch card, you wasn't getting food.
There you go.
That was it.
There you go. Wow. And we had that issue just now that you bring it up. It's real funny. The twins, we had an issue with. We would put the money in their accounts for the lunch account, right? Okay. And we totaled it up, so it's supposed to make it all week. It kept not making it all week. So we like, what's going on? We calling up to the school, and they like, okay, we can't pull it up now, but if you call us back after this such a time, we'll pull it up. Yeah. Come to find out, Jamar, he getting all of the Alcott stuff instead of getting lunch. Your Nutty Buddy and your cookies and
okay.
I'm like, y'all let them do that? They like, yeah, it's their money.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where that lapse came in, but it was also a learning experience for him and us. So they made the decision on their own that if they didn't like what was for lunch, they was gonna get something that they liked.
So what were your thoughts on that?
I kind of couldn't get mad when I found out about it, because we asked him, was he eating lunch? He did say he was eating lunch. He said yes. Okay. He was eating lunch, but he wasn't getting the lunch that we was paying.
He wasn't getting school lunch.
Lunch was $2. Okay. If we put $10 in that account Monday through Friday, you're supposed to have money for lunch. Yeah. But he took it upon himself and was like, I don't like that, so pass me that.
Wow. So what was your response to that?
Once we found out about it, we had to have a talk with him and was like, look, we're on a budget. Okay. And this is why you want them to understand that budget in this aspect. Look, it's for y'all. Okay. We gotta take care of y'all. Oh, we can't just take care of one. Okay. We have this in the budget where this is what we put in your account. You have to get that, or you're going to run out of money. Okay. And I know you mad eating that cheese sandwich, but that's what they're going to give you if that money run out.
You could, because, I mean, I wonder if people are going to respond to that and say, man, you just don't get money for this week.
Hey, we never pushed it to that extent, but he learned from...
Are you close to that?
Yeah, he learned from that. Believe me, he learned. Because it happened so much that we didn't even bother when they would send him to the office the calls, and he says no money in the account. We was like, okay, go eat the cheese sandwich, we'll deal with it later. Okay. Because we knew that something had to be wrong from the first conversation we had with this lunch lady about the money being off. Okay. So from there, it touches on the point where you teaching them finances and they don't even know it.
Mm-hmm. And what age was this?
This was back when they were in the 2nd and 3rd grade. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Because like I said in the book, they all had bank accounts at the age of 5.
Correct.
The older boys, they didn't get it as good as the twins because technology had improved. Mm. We used to have to actually deal with the currency as far as money. and they would get paid for their allowance and take it to the bank and put it in. But when they wanted to buy something, we had to go to the bank so they could take it out and go buy it.
Correct, because they wouldn't. You had to be a certain age.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think it's
it was
still
a
like
custodian
that now,
account.
But I think it's like 13 years.
Yeah, but
12,
what we
13
did with the twins, now the technology has improved. They had check cards.
Oh, okay.
So they learned the digital currency and things of that nature where they could buy stuff with their check cards. And once they found that out, they would try to buy something and they'd be like, my card's not working.
Yeah, you ain't got no money.
Not? And they like, nah. I said, what are you trying to buy? You see that price? That says $59.99. You know how much money you have in your account? $23.
Oh,
that ain't finna work.
That's why you can't buy it.
Oh, wow.
Can you put the money in my account? No, I can't. If you want that, you're going to have to save until you get enough to buy it.
Or you're going to have to work for it.
Yeah, correct.
I saw your book that you would incentivize them,
exactly,
pay them to do work around the
house.
Yeah.
Yes, because I wanted them to be prepared for the real world.
Yeah,
and most parents don't look at it as that, but you have to prepare your child for the world. Yeah. You cannot give them a false pretense of this is how it's going to be. When you want something, just come to me and I'll buy it. No, it doesn't work like that.
Correct.
You have to learn the value of money.
So do you? And I think this is an important question. Do you and not only just preparing for the world, but you're preparing for finances,
yes,
relationships,
yes,
like get your own car, that's finance, own house. Yeah. So do you feel like there's a difference of raising your sons to potentially raising a daughter? Do you feel like raising a daughter should be in that same vein, right?
It should be, yes.
Okay. Based off of your relationship with your wife.
Correct.
So,
it should.
Oh, go ahead and finish, and I'll follow up.
Yeah, it should be, yes. But the way I raise my boys is to respect females.
Correct, because you mentioned that in your book.
Yes.
You mentioned that in your book
yes.
that it's just a difference of how we can raise our boys versus girls, right?
Yes.
And I kind of wanted to touch on that.
Yeah, and I just wanted them to understand that you're the man of the household for a reason.
Yeah. So
you have to make good financial decisions so you put yourself and your family in the right predicament.
Important,
Yep.
So, what's it called? We were talking about daughters versus sons.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've heard this, but we often hear like, oh, we raise our daughters, but we sort of just let our sons do their own thing.
Yes. And
do you well, speak on that a little bit.
And that's where I think that disconnect and that disjustice is. For you got the females now that are running into the males that are not prepared for the world. So it's like they kind of learning on the fly. But that does you a disjustice. It does your relationship a disjustice. And if it's kids involved, they're at a disjustice as well. Because nobody is grown.
And those same women that are in those relationships are now trying to teach men how to prepare them for the real world.
Yes.
And that's not their job.
Not at all.
Not their responsibility.
Not at all.
Right?
Actually, you reminded me of a conversation I was having at work where a lot of women, like there were two sisters actually, were talking to me about like dating is trash because it seems like most men are looking for a mother as opposed to a wife.
Yes, and I did not want that for my son.
Yeah,
I did not.
Mm-hmm.
But do you feel like how can I say it, right? Do you feel like that was kind of the some disconnects between you and your wife at that time?
Yes, at the beginning when we first met. Yes.
Okay.
Because she kind of felt as though it was too early for some of the things that I wanted to push and teach. Okay. So it's kind of, we had to baby steps for a little bit. And she kind of let me take the wheel and take over so that I could get them on a straight and narrow.
Okay.
And I don't know if that was because she seen with my son, like the progress and things that he was doing. And he would pull out his wallet when we would go to the store and pull out his own money and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it snapped in her head. Hey, look, maybe he on to something here.
Did she feel a little intimidated?
I don't know. That might have been the thing. I'm gonna ask her that when I get home. That might have been a thing because of the fact she saw that DeAndre was progressing, and she might have been like, "Hey, Jaquan should be on that same level. Maybe I should let him, jump into it and take control of that."
Or she may have, how sometimes a woman's thought and the point of view is maybe she'd take a step back and maybe like, why is he that way when my son isn't?
There you go.
You know what I mean? And sometimes that could be a rift.
Yes.
Where like, do I let him, instill those things in him?
Yep.
Or do I instill those things
myself?
Without you.
Exactly.
But still be in your life.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I'm glad she made the decision to let it be like a grand union.
Okay.
Because of the fact that's where that respect that we talked about earlier comes in.
Did y'all fight over that?
At the beginning, we did have a lot of disagreements as far as like on different choices and things of that nature.
Well, I'm speaking on the trust and respect level. Where you did you demand respect? Or?
Yes, right off the bat.
Really?
Right off the bat.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I expected if I told him to do something, then he should do it.
Okay.
And I told her vice versa. I wouldn't let my son disrespect her.
Correct.
Yeah.
So did you not only from her son and your son, but from her?
As far as
parenting, as far as trust, as far as like you and her relationship. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's different dynamics, right?
Exactly.
So how that's kind of maybe you misunderstood. So how would you command that respect, not only to say, hey, trust me with your son,
yes,
but also I need you to trust me with the decisions.
Exactly.
Because that's what it comes down
to. That was definitely a riff.
Okay.
Many of times as far as decisions I wanted to make and things of that nature.
So you as a man, how did you handle that? Because I think that's the $1 million question there, right?
You had to come to it like with a glass half full.
Okay.
And you kind of had to come to a medium.
Okay.
And then once she came around to see what I visioned, then it made it easier. As far as with the twins, once the older boys were older, she already saw my vision and knew my vision. Mm-hmm. But with the older boys, it was kind of skeptical on like you're working on a project. Yeah. But somebody telling you this project you gotta do this, and this, and you like, she like, I don't know about that. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like one of my sons fell behind the other, and we kind of bump heads. With her son, we would bump heads all the time. And I knew why we would bump heads. Okay. Because when we decided on things, she wouldn't let me do it my way. Mm. And I knew that her way wasn't going to work. Okay. But it's like it had to come to fruition for her to understand.
Kind of speak on that. How did y'all handle that? Because I think that's very important.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because you can't have that breakdown not only in front of your kids, but for the relationship.
We got it just in time as far as where it was that range of the 13, 14. Mm-hmm. And it's like her son was kind of like out of control, so to speak, and kind of like in that rebel stage. Okay. And I'm like, look, we got to nip this in the bud. We got to come to a unity, and we going to have to do it this way.
And this was when you guys were still instilling those things as young.
Yes, yes, yep. And at the time, we was already past the dating. We was married. Okay. All the kids in a union in the same house. Okay. You had to let them see that everybody was going to get treated equal. Mm-hmm. Okay. And if you didn't do that, then one would think they had special privilege. Mm-hmm. So that's why I begged and pleaded with her to let me, handle him like I was doing everybody else. Okay. And once we came to that agreement, everything went up from there. Okay.
So here's my fault. I know you said initially his biological father wasn't necessarily around.
Correct.
Did that stay the same or did it change?
Definitely.
Okay.
He early on he just didn't want anything to do with it.
Okay. Cause that's on him. But my question then was going to be, Well, actually, it works the same because you, the mother of your firstborn, was
Yes.
still there.
Yeah, she was definitely in his life.
How did you navigate? Like, this is how I want to raise my son. She has input in how I want to. She's gonna like how we're raising our children. But how do you navigate? All right, he also has his biological mother, and she has input as well.
Yes.
How did you navigate that?
That was rough. It was real rough. My wife and her clashed all the time on what we did at our house and then what she did at her house. And I don't know if it was a jealousy thing, but my son, he kind of caught the gist of it and tried to use it to his advantage.
Of course, they will.
At times to try to pull his card on my wife, so to speak.
Okay, I guess because it goes back, because he could do certain things that.
Yes, at his mother's house that he couldn't do here.
Okay.
And we had the grand rules set here. Okay. So it would come times when I would come home and they were home or whatever, she'd be like, you need to speak to DeAndre. As they got older, you know how kids start to smell the stuff and things that nature. They was like, look, you need to talk to him. This would happen. Just, go in there and find out what's going on. Because when he got to the point of getting on the phone every time something happened and calling his mother. So that was bringing friction into the household.
Wow.
And it's like you kids, that's what they do, and they try to play both sides. Even if it was just the mother and the father in the same house. If the mother say no, they gonna go ask the father and see if they can get a different answer. Yeah.
So you gotta learn early. What did your mama say?
Yes, exactly.
How did you navigate between your child's mother, biological mother, your wife?
What? Right? Yeah, definitely.
How did you have to?
Was it like a sit down, mafia style? Like, how'd it go?
We did have that, and it came to the decision that she felt as though she could raise him better.
Her biological mother?
Yes.
Wow.
So we did the little rotation thing where he would go here for certain days and go here for certain days. But she wanted, and this made it hard because at the beginning she wasn't in his life. Okay. Until he was like 3 or 4ish, and I don't know if it was because I started a serious relationship that brought her on to wanting to be involved. Okay. Once that took place, it kind of threw a monkey wrench in it. Okay. Because then it started to decline on the things that I was implementing and my wife was implementing in our household. Wasn't getting implemented when he would go to her house.
It's confusing.
Exactly. Okay. And that's what we eliminated at the beginning with Jaquan, her son. Okay. And once we eliminated with him, there comes the next problem, the one you brought up.
Yeah.
So you had to sit down with your wife and.
Yeah, we did. We
same place. Same.
We did have that conversation. Wow. Yes, and it was rough. It was rough for about 10 years. It was rough.
10 years.
But you have to sacrifice because it's for the child's benefit. And I touched on that in the book as well about the blended families.
Yeah.
It's hard with blended families, man, because you got a lot of different emotions and a lot of different characteristics. Wow. That wheel is going this way, then it's going this way. Yeah. And if you don't want to put the time forth with dealing with that other partner or parent or whatever, it's going to be a disjustice because there's never going to be a union or a connection. And the child is the one that's going to suffer.
So it always goes back to us as men. You got to choose right.
You got to. You got to make good decisions. And to this day, when I see different relationships don't work out, and they be like, "This man is no good," or "This woman is no good," you make the decision. You're an adult now. Yeah. You have to take the responsibility and make this right somehow, some way. Yeah. Even if you're not together. Yeah. You gotta figure out a way to make certain things work for the child.
Yeah.
If not, that child is not gonna progress.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you have something to add?
Well, so one of the other things that you spoke about is for me the dynamics of everything is what's interesting, because you're talking about, okay, you've You've managed to figure it out at your place.
Yes.
Now your wife is now you're the mother of your child is throwing a wrench in it. But then you also have to make room for, like you said in the book, to give your son his voice as well, or your sons their voice as well.
Yep.
So how did you manage to do that?
By that time, he is probably about 10 or 11, so he could actually communicate what he wanted.
Okay.
So his communication to us was that he wanted to go stay with his mother.
Wow.
So we did not block that, and we let the transition switch up where he would go here on these days, and then I or my wife would scoop him up from school, and he would come for these days to keep the peace and the unity going instead of bucking the system.
How did that affect you when he said that?
It hurt. Okay. It hurt. But as you saw in the book, you gotta give that child a voice.
Okay.
You got to.
Okay.
Because it'd be detrimental if I'd be like, no, that's not what you're doing. Okay. You're staying here.
Okay.
It's like he had to see for himself that decisions you make in life, they can be positive and pluses. And when he made that decision, he found out the same things that he went through at our house. Then it was things he didn't like there at his mom's house. So he figured out that this is life.
It's like,
this is life.
I'm never gonna get everything I want.
No, this is life.
Yeah, wow.
And then he would pull the card and be like, can you come pick me up early? Huh?
No, that's how it's set up right now.
And this is how it is. This is how it's gonna work.
Wow.
And hey, it taught him a lot. It taught him a lot. The decisions that you make in life, they can affect you.
Wow.
And unlike probably some other parents in that situation, they wouldn't have made that decision. They would have forced something upon the child, which would have affected him. Not just mentally, but it would have affected his education. It would have affected a lot, and he probably wouldn't have ended up where he is now.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because you kind of goes to the next chapter. Your kids supporting their dreams, and not yours.
Yes.
Not putting you as a parent on them.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So kind of, I feel like that's very important, right? Because I feel like we as children, we grow up to kind of idolize our parents.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Idolize who they are, what they became, and kind of, be the mirror image of that. So kind of explain that, kind of.
Yes, definitely. The importance to that I saw real early was with my older boys. Everything that I like doing, I tried to force that on them to like doing it as well.
Early.
Okay. So I wouldn't expose them to the stuff I didn't like. If I ain't like it, we ain't do it.
Yeah, gotcha.
And I kind of realized that wasn't right, because when I saw it not working out like I thought it was going to work out, I had to rethink it as myself and be like, look, this is not working. You're going to have to change some stuff up.
Yeah, because our minds change all the time.
Exactly. And me forcing on what I wanted to do and things of that nature on them, they didn't like doing certain stuff. Okay. And they wasn't progressing because they didn't like doing the stuff that I was making them do. Because of that time. There you go. Okay. And that's where the supporting their dreams instead of mine came into play. And I kind of let them, like in the chapter before that, have that voice for them to understand, hey, you can go to dad and be like, look, Dad, I know you want me to play basketball, but I don't like basketball.
So basketball ain't
it might hurt when they tell you this, but you gave them the voice.
Yeah.
So, hey, cool. You don't want to play basketball? What you want to play?
So my question then is, what's it called? Like, what's some stuff that they introduced you to that you like now?
Hey, swimming was one.
Okay.
Sitting in there for 8 to 10 hours, smelling that chlorine. Never had did it, but hey,
learned.
I learned to like it
Yeah.
because that's what he liked.
And I think it's important because I understand what he mentioned as far as letting your kids have a voice, but
Yes.
also encouraging their dreams.
Yes,
It also develops a bond.
it does.
And a
It
relationship.
does, and that teaches the parent as well while they're learning,
Correct.
and you grow too.
And you grow too, but it also sees as far as you being a man and a father that you're willing to spend time with them.
Oh yeah,
And learn something. And
even if it's not something you like.
correct.
Man, appreciate you guys having me. Shout out to y'all, man. And yeah, I'm happy to be here, man.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here, man. You guys are doing amazing things.
Good, man. We doing good. I see you guys looking great.
Well, I appreciate y'all for having me out, taking y'all time, and promoting positive Black image.